If you think cancer is only a hospital conversation, you are missing one of the most important battlegrounds in the human body, your daily diet. Now let's say something clearly from the very beginning, because honesty is what builds trust. No single food kills cancer by itself. No fruit, no vegetable, no spice, no tea, and no so-called superfood can guarantee that cancer will never touch your life. But that does not mean food is powerless. Far from it. What you eat consistently can influence inflammation, insulin levels, body weight, oxidative stress, gut bacteria, hormone balance, and the health of your cells. And those are exactly the kinds of biological conditions that shape cancer risk over time. So the real secret is not one miracle food. The real secret is building an internal environment that is less friendly to disease and more protective of long-term health. That is where most people get this topic wrong. They keep searching for one magical ingredient, one forbidden truth, one hidden substance that can do all the work for them. But the strongest cancer prevention guidance from major health institutions says the exact opposite. The most powerful protection comes from a pattern built on whole or minimally processed foods, especially vegetables, fruits, beans, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and other plant foods, while limiting alcohol, processed meat, red meat, sugary drinks, and highly processed products. In other words, what protects you most is not one dramatic meal. It is what you eat again and again, week after week, month after month, year after year. Experts from organizations like the American Cancer Society, the National Cancer Institute, MD Anderson, AICR, and Harvard's nutrition researchers all point back to the same general truth. There is no single anti-cancer food, but there are eating patterns that can help lower risk. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing hype and start building something much more powerful: consistency. That means every smart food choice becomes part of a larger system. A stronger breakfast, a better lunch, a cleaner snack, a dinner that nourishes instead of damaging. And over time, those repeated choices begin to matter more than most people realize. Let's begin with one of the most discussed food groups in cancer nutrition: cruciferous vegetables. This includes broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, and kale. These vegetables contain natural compounds called glucosinolates, which break down into biologically active substances such as sulforaphane and indoles. In laboratory and animal studies, these compounds have been linked to processes that sound incredibly important for cell protection, including helping the body neutralize carcinogens, protect DNA, reduce inflammation, encourage abnormal cells to self-destruct, and interfere with the biological pathways that tumors rely on. Human research is more mixed, and that is important to admit, honestly, but these vegetables continue to stand out as some of the most respected foods in a protective eating pattern. You do not need to treat broccoli like a drug. You need to treat it like a regular part of your life. Steam it, roast it, stir-fry it, add cabbage to soups, use cauliflower in curries, and build familiarity with it until it stops feeling like a health food and starts feeling normal. Then there are berries, and few foods have a stronger health halo than blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and strawberries. Berries are rich in polyphenols, especially anthocyanins, which give them their deep color and are studied for antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. Research suggests these compounds may help support cellular defense systems and reduce some of the damage that can lead to long-term disease. Now again, we have to be accurate. Berries are promising, but they are not a cure. What makes them powerful is not some fantasy that one bowl of blueberries can stop cancer. What makes them powerful is that they bring dense nutrition into the diet while pushing out worse choices. A breakfast with berries and oats is simply a better biological signal than a breakfast of sugary cereal and pastries. A snack of berries and plain yogurt is far better than cookies and soda. That repeated signal matters. Tomatoes deserve a place in this conversation too, especially because they are one of the easiest protective foods to use regularly. Tomatoes are known for lycopene, a carotenoid that has attracted major interest in cancer research. Early enthusiasm focused heavily on prostate cancer, but higher quality evidence has made experts more cautious about making strong claims. Still, tomatoes remain valuable because they are part of the broader family of non-starchy vegetables repeatedly linked with healthier eating patterns. They are rich, versatile, affordable, and easy to build into everyday meals. Tomato sauce, crushed tomatoes in soup, fresh tomatoes in salad, sautéed tomatoes with olive oil, all of these can fit naturally into a diet that works with your body instead of against it. And one practical point that many nutrition experts mention is that cooking tomatoes and pairing them with olive oil can improve lycopene absorption, making them even easier for the body to use. Beans, lentils, and peas may be the most underrated foods in this entire discussion. They are not trendy enough for social media, but they are incredibly strong nutritionally. These foods provide fiber, resistant starch, plant protein, and compounds that support beneficial gut bacteria. That matters because the gut microbiome influences far more than digestion. It affects inflammation, metabolism, immune function, and even the production of short-chain fatty acids that may help protect the colon. Health authorities like WCRF place strong emphasis on fiber-rich foods because diets high in fiber and whole grains are linked to lower bowel cancer risk. Beans also help with fullness, blood sugar stability, and weight control, which is critical because excess body fat is associated with multiple cancers. The beauty of beans is that they are realistic. They are inexpensive, widely available, filling, and easy to use in soups, curries, salads, chili, and grain bowls. Sometimes the most powerful food is not the rarest one. It is the one you can actually afford and eat often. Whole grains are another major pillar of a cancer-conscious diet, yet many people still build their meals around refined grains instead. White bread, pastries, sweet cereals, crackers, white pasta, and low-fiber snack foods dominate modern diets, and that creates a problem. Whole grains such as oats, brown rice, barley, quinoa, rye, and whole wheat retain more of their original structure, fiber, and nutrients. That means they digest differently, nourish gut bacteria differently, and support fullness differently. Research reviews have linked whole grain intake with lower risk of colorectal cancer, and that is one reason why major cancer prevention guidelines keep bringing people back to fiber-rich foods. Whole grains are not exciting in a viral headline, but in real life, they are exactly the kind of food that quietly changes health outcomes. Oatmeal instead of sugar cereal, brown rice instead of fries, whole grain toast instead of sweet pastries. These are the kinds of swaps that improve the dietary pattern without requiring extreme effort. Dark green leafy vegetables also deserve serious attention. Spinach, kale, collards, arugula, romaine, Swiss chard, and similar greens are rich in carotenoids, folate, vitamin C, and other protective compounds that help support antioxidant defenses and cellular health. These vegetables offer a lot while costing very little in calories, which makes them incredibly useful for weight management as well. That combination is powerful. They help nourish the body while making it easier to maintain a healthy body composition. And that matters because body fat itself influences hormone levels, inflammation, and cancer risk. The smartest way to use greens is not to treat them like punishment. Put spinach into eggs, add mixed greens to lunch, stir kale into soups, use romaine as the base of a satisfying dinner salad, and make them an ordinary, repeatable part of your routine. Garlic and onions bring a different kind of strength. These foods belong to the allium family and contain compounds that researchers have long studied for possible anti-cancer effects. Laboratory and animal research suggests these compounds may help reduce inflammation, influence carcinogen metabolism, support DNA repair, and slow the growth of abnormal cells. Human evidence is not strong enough to make extreme claims, and responsible sources are careful about that, but garlic and onions still offer something deeply valuable. They make healthy food taste good. That matters more than most people think. If garlic, onions, herbs, and spices help you eat more beans, vegetables, tomato-based dishes, and home-cooked meals while reducing dependence on heavily processed foods, then they are doing far more than adding flavor. They're helping reshape the entire dietary pattern in a healthier direction. Soy foods are another category that has been misunderstood for years. Because soy contains isoflavones, some people became afraid that soy might increase the risk of hormone-related cancers. But human evidence has not supported that fear in the way many people expected. In fact, major organizations like the American Cancer Society say soy foods are safe and can be part of a healthy diet. Foods like tofu, edamame, tempeh, and soy milk are especially useful because they can replace less healthy proteins, particularly processed meat and fatty red meat. That replacement effect is a big deal. When a person starts eating more whole soy foods and fewer processed animal products, the benefit is not only what they add, it is also what they remove. That is how smart nutrition often works. Improvement happens from both directions at the same time. Nuts and seeds may not carry the boldest cancer prevention headlines, but they absolutely belong in a higher quality eating pattern. Almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, sesame seeds, and others provide fiber, healthy fats, minerals, and plant compounds that help improve overall dietary quality. They also help people snack in a more stable and nourishing way. A handful of nuts is not a miracle, but it is a much better direction than a bag of chips or a processed dessert bar. Ground flax can go into oats, chia into yogurt, sesame onto vegetables, walnuts into salads. These foods work best not as isolated superfoods, but as practical tools that improve the texture, satisfaction, and nutrient quality of meals. Extra virgin olive oil also fits naturally into this pattern. It is not a cure, and it should never be sold as one, but it is a central feature of Mediterranean-style eating patterns that are repeatedly associated with better long-term health outcomes. Olive oil can make vegetables more satisfying, improve the taste of home-cooked meals, and replace less helpful fats from heavily processed foods. It also pairs beautifully with foods already discussed here, including tomatoes, beans, greens, and roasted vegetables. In real life, a healthy dietary pattern has to be enjoyable enough to repeat. Olive oil helps with that. It turns basic ingredients into something people genuinely want to eat again. Green tea is often overhyped online, so it needs careful wording. There is interesting research on green tea compounds such as EGCG, and scientists continue to study how these substances may influence cellular processes. But no honest source should tell you that green tea treats cancer or guarantees prevention. What can be said more responsibly is that green tea can fit into a healthy routine, especially when it replaces sugary beverages. Unsweetened tea is simply a smarter signal to the body than soda, energy drinks, or sweetened, bottled coffee drinks. Sometimes the main benefit of a food or drink comes less from fantasy-level powers and more from the fact that it helps remove something worse. Coffee can fit into that same kind of intelligent, realistic health pattern. Plain coffee, especially without excessive sugar and syrups, is not the villain it was once made out to be. In fact, in many modern dietary discussions, coffee can fit comfortably into a healthy routine. The problem is not usually coffee itself. The problem is turning it into a dessert. A simple coffee is one thing. A giant drink loaded with sugar, whipped cream, flavored syrup, and processed additives is something else entirely. When you stop confusing those two, the conversation becomes much clearer. And now we come to the other side of this issue, because no video about protective foods is complete unless it also talks about what quietly works against them. One of the strongest warnings in cancer nutrition is processed meat. Bacon, sausage, deli meat, hot dogs, and similar products have repeatedly been linked with increased cancer risk, especially colorectal cancer. This is one of the clearest places where nutrition science gives people a strong signal. If lowering cancer risk is truly the goal, reducing processed meat is one of the most practical moves a person can make. Alcohol is another major issue, and many people still underestimate it. There is a persistent desire to believe that moderate drinking is harmless, or that certain alcoholic drinks somehow escape the risk. But major health authorities are clear that alcohol increases the risk of several cancers. That means wine does not get a magical exemption. Beer does not get a free pass. Spirits do not get a free pass. The more a person drinks, the more risk rises. So when people ask what one of the strongest diet-related risk reduction strategies is, drinking less deserves to be part of the answer. Ultra-processed foods are also becoming impossible to ignore. This does not mean that every packaged item is equally harmful or that food has to be perfect to be healthy. But when the diet is dominated by sugary drinks, packaged desserts, industrial snacks, highly refined convenience meals, and products with long ingredient lists built for shelf life and hyperpalatability, the body pays a price. Research has linked higher intake of ultra-processed foods with higher overall cancer risk, though scientists also caution that such studies are observational and should not be exaggerated into simplistic cause and effect claims. Even with that caution, the direction of the evidence is meaningful. A diet built mostly from real recognizable foods is still the safer, smarter pattern. Weight management is another truth people often avoid because it sounds less exciting than talking about exotic plant compounds. But maintaining a healthy body weight is one of the most important ways to reduce cancer risk. That is exactly why fiber-rich foods matter so much. They help control appetite, improve fullness, support better blood sugar responses, and make it easier to eat well without constantly feeling deprived. So when vegetables, beans, whole grains, fruit, and other whole foods are emphasized, the body often benefits in several ways at once. It gets better nourishment, better metabolic support, and a better chance of staying at a healthier weight. When you put everything together, the real message becomes clear. The secret is not that one food destroys cancer. The secret is that your body responds to patterns, and your diet helps shape those patterns every single day. Cruciferous vegetables bring compounds. Scientists continue to study for their effects on carcinogens and abnormal cells. Berries bring polyphenols. Tomatoes support a vegetable-rich pattern. Beans and lentils feed the gut and deliver fiber. Whole grains support bowel health. Leafy greens provide antioxidant defenses and folate. Garlic and onions make healthy meals more powerful and more enjoyable. Soy offers a strong plant protein that can replace less healthy choices. Nuts and seeds improve dietary quality. Olive oil supports a more protective pattern of eating. Green tea and coffee can fit when used wisely. None of these foods is a miracle on its own. Together, they help create a very different internal environment. And that may be the most hopeful part of all. You do not need to become perfect overnight. You do not need to follow a punishing diet. You do not need to obsess over every bite. What matters most is direction. Add berries to breakfast. Eat beans several times a week. Replace refined grains more often. Put broccoli or cabbage on your plate regularly. Use greens in simple meals. Cut back on processed meat. Drink less alcohol. Keep ultra-processed foods from becoming your default. Let healthy foods become normal, not dramatic. Let them become your routine. Because in the end, most real protection does not happen in one life-changing moment. It happens in quiet daily choices, in your grocery cart, in your kitchen, in what you keep at home when you are tired, in what you reach for when nobody is watching. That is where long-term health is shaped, not by hype, but by habit. Not by one miracle ingredient, but by a consistent pattern that gives your body a better chance. No single food can promise safety, but a smarter way of eating can absolutely move the odds in your favor, and that is the kind of truth worth listening to.